Hello friends, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to learn unit segmentation using the PyTorch framework. And for the task, we are going to use the Drive dataset, which consists of retinal images and their respective annotated binary mask. To learn more about it, make sure that you watch the complete video and subscribe the channel. To support the channel, check out the membership. By taking membership, you are not only helping me in my research, but in return, you will get more such content. So without any further delay, let's start the video. Here we are in our Atom text editor. Now we'll perform data pre-processing part. So in this part, we will first load the dataset into training and testing. And then we will apply data augmentation on the training part. And for the testing or the validation part, we won't apply any data augmentation. Because we want to increase the size of the dataset, that's why we would apply data augmentation to the training part. Now first of all, we'll take a look at the data itself. So here we will use the Drive dataset. We basically contain retina blood vessels and we have to segment those. So here the dataset is already split into training and testing, so we don't have to do any manual splitting. And both the training and testing contain 2020 images and their respected annotated mask. So we'll take a look at the training. So here it contains 3 folders. First we'll take a look at the images itself. So these are the 20 retina images. Can take a look at these retina images and they contain fine vessels. So we have to really take care of these, because it's not like any other segmentation where the structure is really big and that's easy to segment for the network. Here they are retina vessels which are really tiny, and so we have to take care of the network. We have to tune it and train it accordingly. Now there's another folder called first manual and it contains the annotated binary mask. Okay, you can see these vessels are really tiny. So take a look at the few samples. So this is the entire data on which our model need to be trained. You can see it only contains 20 pair of images and masks, and like it's a really small data set, so we would apply data augmentation, like we would apply at least 2-3 techniques so that it can be doubled inside. Like we should have at least 60 to 70 images, so we will train on those 16-17. Now the last folder, which is mask, is basically contains this circular mask. So this circular white area indicate the region of this retina portion, which is useful because this blackish region is not useful, but as unit segmentation algorithm is really efficient, so it can determine which area is useful and which area is not. So we won't use this third folder mask, we only use these 2 folder, images and first manual. And same goes with the test folder also, but in the test folder we have 2 set of ground truth masks, and there are 2 folder called first manual and second manual. So they both contain the ground truth mask. If you take a look at them, you can see so the samples, and same goes with the second manual folders. Okay, these are GIF images. So we will use first manual folder only. We will discard the second manual, because we, for simplicity, we will go with the first option. Okay, and here also we'll use these 2 folder only, images and the first manual, and here also it contains 20 images. So we won't touch or apply data augmentation on this testing part, we'll directly use them. So first of all, we will import all the required libraries and function which we required for this file. Okay, now you can see here we import a lot of functions. First is the operating system library, which is used to join the paths and create some directories. Second is basic numpy array. Third is cbean to read, resize and save the images. Next is the globe, which is used to extract the images and mask path from their respective folders. And the next is the tqdm. So tqdm is basically a progress bar, because we have to loop over, we're going to use a for loop here, and like to know how much progress is done, how much iteration are done, we're going to use this tqdm as a progress bar. This next is the image IO library. This image IO library we're going to use to read our GIF mask. If you remember, our masks are in the GIF format, GIF format, so we're going to read them using this library. And the last we have is the augmentation, which is the data augmentation library, and here we're going to use only 3 augmentation, only 3: horizontal flipping, vertical flipping and rotation. You can add many more, but for this demonstration I'm going to use only 3 only, because adding more data augmentation would be like more time for the training. So I'm going to train the model, try to implement these three data augmentation and then train the model. So we will first go to the main part of the function and we'll seed the environment. Okay, so here we have seed the environment. Now we're going to load the data. Okay, so for that we need the path. Okay, so this is the path for the data set. Okay, so we're going to build a function called load data, which takes the path, that is data path. Okay, so now we'll start building this load data function. Okay, we will call it path instead of data path. Now we'll try to import all the, not import, extract all the images and mask path. So for the training we will use the word train, and for images we're going to call it X. So train X basically means images of the training part. So we're going to use the globe function, and here we're going to use the OS module to join the paths. So first of all is the path, then we have training folder, if you remember, then we have the images. Okay, and all the images are in TIF format, so we're going to say star.tif. Then we're going to sort them using this sorted function. So here we have imported all the images from the training folder. If I give you some of the names of these paths, okay, you can see the path, all the images. If you go with the last one, you can see media, Nikhil, and this all this path, and then training images, then 40 train / TIF. Okay, see, we have loaded the images, and like this we're going to load the mask. The masks are in GIF format, so we're going to rename them properly. Here we're going to say train by, and instead of images we have the name first manual for the folder which contain mask, and masks are in GIF format. Okay, so we have loaded both the training images and mask, and we're going to do same for the testing. So we're going to copy this path and paste it, and we're going to rename them to test X and test Y. Now we're going to change the training folder name to test. Okay, so now I can see we have extracted training images and mask, and we have also extracted the testing images and mask. So we're going to return the training images and the testing images and mask. Okay, okay, here we're going to it will return the train X, train Y, test X and test Y. Okay, this should not be pasted here, it should be pasted in front of this load data. So now we'll print the length of the data. What is the initial amount of data? So we're going to print both the train X and train Y. So we're going to print the length of images and mask for both training and testing. So let's run this program. You can see we have 20 pair of images and mask for both testing and training. This is really small amount of data. Now it's time to apply data augmentation. But before data augmentation, one thing is that we would apply data augmentation, it would create more images, so we need a folder structure to save them. So before that we're going to create a function which would create a required path. Okay, and we're going to call this function create dir. So this create dir function takes a path and check if it does not exist, then create that required path. So now we would create some directories to save our augmented data. So we're going to call this directory new data, and see we have created a main directory called new data, and inside new data we have two directories, that is train and test, and inside those train and test we have two more subfolders. We're going to call them image and mask. Okay, so here is that where our data would be saved, that is augmented data. Now we'll run it and see if those directories are created or not. You can see the new data folder, and inside that we have train and test, and inside each of them we have image and mask. Okay, so now we need to work upon our main function, that is data augmentation function. Okay, so we would call this function data, no, not the data, we'll call it augment data. It would take images and mask path, then the save path where the images need to be saved, the new data folder basically, and a optional argument, a boolean variable, which is said to be true or false. So this makes sure that you have option to apply the data augmentation or not. You have the choice. So if you say argument equals to true, then you are applying the data augmentation. If you say argument equals to false, you are not applying data augmentation. You are just resizing the data set. The size for this data set would be 512 by 512. Okay. Now we're gonna loop over these images and masks. So here we would use the enumerate, and inside enumerate we would use the zip function, which would contain the images and mask. Okay. Now here we would use the tqdm. After the before the enumerate we would use tqdm, and at last it would take a variable called total, which would take of the number of iteration it would perform. So number of iteration would be the length of the data set. It would be 20. So now this x and y basically contain the path for an image and its respective mask. Now let's print this x and then print this y. Okay. And here we would break this loop because we want to see only one path, not more than that. So let's apply data augmentation and use that function after this. So here we have give it train x, train y, new data train, and here we have set argument equals to true. Now let's run this code. Okay, you can see path for the image, that is 21 underscore training.tif, and then same for the mask. So we're going to extract this name 21 underscore training because we need to save the image, so we need their proper naming. So we'll try to make sure that both the image and mask have same name, so we don't have any issue while loading it. So we're going to extract this part, this 21 underscore training. So let's do that now. So we're going to say x name, we're going to give it x name, or simply let's give it name. So we're going to say name equals to x dot split. So we're going to split this path on the base of the slash. You can see this entire path consists of slash. Now we would run it. So this split has given us a list, and this list contains various words related to the folder path. So we need to extract this last index item. So what we are going to say, we're going to say -1. So we need the name with the extension. You can see we have 21 underscore training. Now we don't need this extension. Okay, we need only the name, that is 21 training. So again we're going to split this name on the basis of the dot, and again it would split it into two parts. First the name and then extension. So name is at the 0th index. So you're going to say 0. So you can see we have extracted the name. So let's put a proper comment here. I'm going to say extracting the name. Okay, so we have extracted the name successfully. Next, our aim is to read the image and the mask. Reading image and mask. Okay, so now we're gonna read our image and mask. So we're gonna call our image as x and mask as y. So here's the code. So we're going to use cv2 function, the library, to read the image as an RGB image, and for the mask we're going to use the image IO library. So now I'm going to print the shape of the image and the mask. You can see this shape. First it is a RGB image, so it has 3 channels, but a mask don't have any channels, so it's a grayscale image, it has only 1 channel. Okay, now it would come to this argument part. Okay, here we're going to say if argument equals to true. Now we won't work on this now, we would say pass else. We would work upon this else part first. What happen if we don't apply augmentation? Okay, so we're going to create a list called x and y, which would contain the image and mask, and we'll try to save them, save the data which is present in this capital X and capital Y list. So now we can loop over them. Okay, so now we are going to resize this I and M, that is this image and mask array. Okay, so here we have resized them and the size is already specified as 512 by 512. Okay, now we need to give it a name. Okay, so we're gonna give it some temporary name. Okay, we're gonna give it some temporary name and we're gonna call it temporary image and temporary mask name. Now we're gonna create a path where these images and resized images and masks need to be saved. So this is basically the save path. Then inside save path it should be image and then a temporary name, and same for the mask. And at last we are going to save those resized images and masks and we're going to iterate this index variable. Okay, now here you will see why are we using this index variable. Okay, because like within this data, when the data augmentation is there, so it would be like x1 will also be there, x2, so we would have multiple images. So we cannot give it every image the same name. Okay, so that's why I've added an index variable here. So now I'm going to run this part and we're going to let this break statement here. Okay, so we have some issue and I think it's because the argument is set to be true, so we're going to set it false and we are going to run it again. So now we would go inside the new data and then train folder, and inside image you can see we have this image with the name 21 underscore training underscore 0.png. I'm going to show its size. It's a 512 by 512 image, and I think same is done with the mask, same name, same extension and same size. Okay, so now this is, we are saving the image without applying data augmentation. Now what would happen if we apply data augmentation? Okay, so now we're going to work on this statement where argument is equals to true. So first of all we are going to apply the horizontal flipping. So if you remember, we already have imported these three functions. Okay, horizontal flip, vertical flip and rotation, basically call it rotate. So we have this horizontal flip, and inside this horizontal flip we say p equals to 1. So p is basically a probability of applying this augmentation on the given images and mask. So we're going to say we want to apply it, so we say 1.0. so we are sure, 100% sure that we want to apply it. So next we would give it the image as x and mask as y. If you already know, we have read the image and mask, and then we extract the augmented images and mask in the form of x1 and y1. And same way we apply two more data augmentation, that is vertical flipping and rotation, but each of them have different values. Like for rotation there is a limit how much rotation you want. So we want a 45 value we have set. 45 basically means it's basically the degree of rotation. Okay, and now we would update the capital X and capital Y list here. You can see we now have three more images added to this list, that is x1, x2, x3, then y1, y2, y3. Now we would run this code. Okay, so now we'll go into the images and we'll see. Okay, let me reload this folder again. So you can see this is the original image, this is next is horizontal flipping, then a vertical flipping and then slight rotation, and same would be happening to the mask also. Okay, so here we have created three more images from with one original image, so it would be like 20 into 4. So we should have 80 images for training and 80 mask. Okay, so let's apply it, and here we're going to remove this break statement and we're going to apply it to this, to the complete data set. So let me reload this and I'm going to open the properties. Here you can see 80 items. Okay, our prediction is right. So 20 into 4 is 80. So we have 80 images, and same for the mask, and 80 mask we have. Let me just show you some images. You can see these images, and same we have 80 mask here. Now we're going to do same with the validation or testing part also. But in testing, we don't apply data augmentation. We just resize the data and save it. So let's run this program again. So now we have pre-processed both the training and the testing part. Here we're going to use this testing part as the validation for the training. Now we will start building the unit architecture in the PyTorch framework. So first of all, we will import all the required libraries. Next, we'll start building the convolution block. So a convolution block basically consists of a convolution layer, then a ReLU, then again a convolution layer, and then a ReLU. So that is specified in the original unit paper. But with the introduction of the Bayes normalization, we would introduce Bayes normalization in between the convolution layer and the ReLU layer. So let's start building that part, that convolution block. So first of all is the name of the convolution block. It take two parameter. First is the number of input channel as INC, then number of output channel as OutC. Next, we are going to define the convolution layer, the first convolution layer. So it take number of input channels, then number of output channel, and kernel size is 3 and a padding 1. So basically this is the 3 by 3 convolution layer. Now we'll start writing the forward function where all the operations would take place. It take the inputs, the previous feature map basically. We're going to say X, then it is passed to the first convolution layer. Now we'll go to our main function and start executing the small convolution block only. How did it work? So here we would define a feature map. Okay, you're gonna call it X. We're gonna say torch dot rand n. Then size. So first of all, the batch size, let's say 2 as the batch size. The number of channels, let's say 32. Then size, let's say 128 by 128. So if you are new to PyTorch, then in PyTorch the channel first approach is there, like first we have the batch size, then number of channel, then height and width. Okay, in TensorFlow it's like opposite, they have channel last approach. So in TensorFlow it's like first batch size, then height and width, and at last we have the number of channels. Okay, so slightly difference is there in PyTorch. Now we'll define the block. We're going to call it B con block. Number of input channel is 32, number of output channel is 64. So we're going to give X as the input to the B. Now we'll go to our unit directory. We are going to activate our environment, PyTorch virtual environment. Now we'll start executing this model file. Okay, there's nothing. Yeah, we have to print this X. Okay, you can see the size is 2 by 64 by 128 by 128. Number of input is 32, number of output is 64. The shape would remain the same, that is 128 by 128. Then next we would define a Bayes normalization. Okay, and then a ReLU activation function. So let's define the ReLU activation below. Now this X, the output of this convolution layer would pass through the Bayes normalization, that is BN1, then a ReLU. Okay, now let's check it and run it and see its shape. You can see the same shape because there is no other parameter which change its shape. Next we would again define a convolution layer and a Bayes normalization. ReLU would remain the same, so we would rename them. Now here the number of input channel would be OutC because it would take the input of the ReLU, that is this X, and here the number of output channel is 64, that is OutC. So we'll again use the same layers, but we change their name, and here the input to the second convolution layer would be the output of first ReLU layer. Okay, that is X. So here we would again run it. So you can see it's running successfully without any issue. If you say now y equals to this, so we're going to print the shape of y here. So if you see, this entire block is now fully working, it's fully functional. Now if you take a look at this diagram, note the diagram, this 4 lines, you will see that this is the input. So this is basically X, and this is basically the convolution block. So this, if you just see it like, write it F. Okay, you can see the mathematical expression. This is basically the function which we learn through the back propagation algorithm. So we can say y is equals to f of x. Like if you are not new to mathematics and you remember your old class, so this is like rememberable. So this is all about deep learning. This is the basis of deep learning. We have an input X, it predict the output Y, and this is the function which we learn through the label. So we have the ground truth, the real value for Y, we calculate loss, and everything would be done here. So this is like an example which come in my mind, so that so now we'll build on the next, that is encoder block. So encoder block is basically a convolution block followed by a pooling layer. Okay, so let me just directly copy paste it here. So this is the encoder block. It takes the input channel as INC, then output number of channels. First it has the convolution block, then it is followed by a 2x2 max pooling. Then the input first goes through this convolution block, then a pooling, and it return the X, that is output of convolution block, and a P, the output of pooling block. Now we'll run this encoder block. So we're going to say it's encoder block, and it return two things, X and P. So let's name it Y, not X. Y dot shape and P dot shape. Now I'm going to run this encoder. So you can see the encoder block, they have same number of batch size, 2 and 2. Number of output channel is 64 by 64, same, but the size is different. The Y, the output of convolution block, has a number of height and width as 128 by 120, but it is reduced by half to 64 by 64 in the P feature map, the output P, because here we have used 2x2 max pooling. So this is what happened in the entire encoder, like entire encoder network. There the spatial dimension, that is height and width, are reduced and drastically as we go to from encoder 1, 2, 3, 4, and the number of filters, that is this 64, increases to 128, 256, 512, like this. So now we'll start building the unit architecture. Okay, let me just paste it also. Why just write it when you can paste it? Okay, now we'll define the encoder part. Okay, some encoder layers. So we're going to say E1, then we're going to say encoder block. So number of input channel for the first encoder block would be 3, because we have an RGB image, and RGB image contain 3 channels, and number of output channel would be 64. Okay, then we define the forward function, self, then inputs. Now here also we'll write encoder. So the encoder block return two things. First is the X, then P. So this X we refer to as S1 or skip connection, then P1 as pooling output. We're going to say E1, then inputs. Okay, so this X here, the output of this convolution block, basically act as skip connection for the decoder, and this skip connection is concatenated in the decoder with the decoder feature map. Like this we would define 4 more encoder blocks. Second is E2. Here the number of feature input channel would be 64 and output would be 128. Okay, so let me copy it 2 more times. Okay, here it would be E3 and E4, and number of input would be 128, number of output channel is 256, and same again with this 256 and 512. So now we would do same with the in the forward function. Okay, we have forgot this colon. Okay, so we have all the 4 encoder layer, we have 4 skip connection and 4 pooling. Now we would have again a bottleneck layer or a bridge layer between the encoder and the decoder. Okay, which is basically a convolution block. It does not contain any pooling or anything else. Now we would call this B, the bottleneck block in the forward function. Okay, so let me just run this class, the build unit in the main here. So number of input would be 3 and the size would be 512 by 512. If you remember the shape, the input the build unit don't take any parameters. So we run this f. So this f is basically function, that's why I'm referring it as f. So you remember that in mathematical term, this entire class, these layers are basically mathematical functions only. Okay, so we're going to run it again. Okay, it's running without any error. So I will try it. So I will show the various shapes of S1, the skip connection, because it's important for you to know their shapes, because we would use them while in the decoder block. And the last is S4, and let's print the shape of B also, the output of bottleneck layer. Okay, now we're gonna see. Okay, you can see the first line is for the skip connection, then it is for the bridge. If you see the size of the first skip connection is, just remember their height and width. The base size and number of channel aren't that useful to us. Just remember their height and width. So first is 512, that is same as input size. Then it is, oh, then after that is half. Okay, half the input size. Then again 256 by 2 is 128. Then 128 by 2 is 64. And in the bridge, 64 divided by 2 is 32. So these all four skip connection are really useful to us because we need them in the decoder part. So you need to remember their shape so that we can concatenate them exactly to their matching or the corresponding decoder block. Okay, let me comment it out here because we're gonna need it in future. Like now we would start building the decoder block. Okay, so let me copy this code from here, the decoder block. So decoder block first basically start with a 2 by 2 transpose convolution. Okay, so this is transpose convolution. It take the input channel, then output channel, and a kernel size of 2. Because we want to increase or upsample the feature height and width by 2, so we just stride of 2 and padding remains 0. Okay, so now we'll build its forward function. So in decoder, it take two inputs. First is the inputs, the previous feature map. Okay, it can be any. So here for the first decoder block, the previous input would be the output of this bridge. That is not the bridge, the bottleneck. That is this B. Would act as the input here. And second is skip connection. So first of all, let's pass it through this. We're gonna give this skip later on because I don't want to cause any error now. So we're gonna say X equals to self dot up. So up is basically transpose convolution layer, and we're going to give it inputs. Now we're going to print its shape, x dot shape. Now again let me uncomment them, and you're going to remove this and B from here. Now it's time for the decoder. Okay, first of all I have to define the layer here. Yeah, so we're going to say self dot d1 equals to decoder block. So now it take number of input channel. Number of input channel would be 1024, and number of output channel would be half of the number of input channel, that is 512 by 512. So in all the decoder layer, what happen is the feature height and width basically increases by 2, and the number of output channels, output feature map, would decreases by factor of 2. Okay, so this is the first decoder block. We're gonna call it here. We're gonna say d1 equals to self dot d1, and first it would take only B input. Okay, so now we would print their shape of the X. Okay, and we'll see. Okay, so first is the skip connection, second is the shape of this upsampled feature map, the output of the transpose convolution. So here if you see, the number of output channel is 512 and the height and width is 64 by 64. So we now need a skip connection with the same exact same shape as the 64 by 64. So you can see this last skip connection, that is S4, has exactly the same shape and the same number of features. Okay, so we'll concatenate this S4 with the output of transpose convolution. So in this D1 we're gonna give input as S4 because they both have same shape, and we're gonna introduce skip here. Now what we do, we're gonna say x equals to torch dot cat. So we're gonna concatenate them. We're gonna call x here, then skip. So we want to join them on the axis 1 because in the PyTorch axis 1 contain the number of channels, and in TensorFlow the axis, the last axis, or we can say axis -1, contains the number of channels. So now we're gonna print again their shape, the output feature map shape. You can see the shape is 1024 by 64 by 64. So both the feature map are concatenated and form a bigger feature map. Now next it is followed by a normal convolution block. Okay, so you take the output. So the number of input feature for this convolution block would be output into 2, or output plus output, and the output feature map would be output only, that is 512. So now here we would call the convolution block, and we're gonna return this x here. Okay, so this is all about the decoder block. This is the entire decoder block. It's really simple. First a transpose convolution which upsample it by 2, then a concatenation with skip connection. So these skip connection basically brings the information which is present in the encoder to the decoder, so it help in better generation of the feature map, because these feature map are later used to generate the segmentation map or the binary mask here in this case, that is for those retina vessels. Then it is followed by the convolution block. Okay, so now we would complete this decoder part. So we would have 3 more decoder layer. So here in this case the number of encoder and the decoder layer would remain the same. Now here number of input layer would be 512, then 256. You can see they are reduced by factor of 2, then 256 by 120. Okay, it should be 256, then 128, and at last we would have 128 by 64. Okay, now we would call the rest of the layers in the forward function with their proper skip connection. You can see the second decoder layer, so the input for the second decoder layer would be the output for the first decoder layer, that is D1, and skip connection with S3. So likewise we have D3 and D4 skip connection. So at last the shape of the D4 should be 512 by 512. Okay, because in case of segmentation our main aim is to generate a segmentation mask of exactly same shape as input. So now we're gonna run it and check its shape. You can see the number of features is 64 and the height is 512, and same for the width. So we have a feature map of the height and width 512 by 512, and that is exactly what we want. So now encoder is complete, bottleneck is complete, the decoder is also complete. Now we need the classifier basically to generate the segmentation map. So we have this outputs convolution layer. So basically it's a 1 by 1 convolution layer, and take the number of output feature map, the number of output channels S1, because we want only one channel. Okay, we don't want more than one channel here because it's a binary segmentation problem. Now we use this output to generate the output mask, and we're gonna return it. Again we're gonna write y here, and we're gonna print its shape. Okay, let's wait for a few seconds. Okay, you can see The number of beds is 2, the number of output channel is 1, and height and width is 512 by 512. So it has successfully generated a segmentation mask of the size 512 by 512. So that's what we want from this entire model. So this is all about the entire unit structure. So I hope you are able to get to know about the unit, how you're gonna build it, and I explain everything. There are few more videos about the unit and in TensorFlow in PyTorch, so just check it out. And if you enjoyed them, do subscribe the channel and like those videos and this videos also. Now we'll start working on the training part of this video. So before we start building the code, here you can see we have imported all the things which we require. First is this model, the build unit. Second is this dice loss and binary cross entropy plus dice loss. So let's go to this loss.py file. So here you can see we have this dice loss. So dice loss is basically 1 minus the dice coefficient score, and second is a combination of dice plus BCE. So it's basically sum of two loss function. First is this binary cross entropy, then the dice loss. Okay, and the third, what we have import, so 3 functions from this utils. So first is this seeding. So this seeding basically seed the randomness. So while training we will seed the randomness, and we will use the same randomness for the testing so that we can have the same results. It is to make sure that the reproducibility is always there, because we are working with deep neural network and and there are variables which are always randomly initialized. So we don't want any randomness. We just want the same randomness to happen every time. That's why we seed the randomness here, to make sure that same randomness occur every time we run the test file. Okay, that's what we're going to build after the training is complete. Second is create dir. So this function basically takes a path. If it does not exist, then it create that path. And the last function is epoch time. So it takes start time and the ending time and calculate the difference between these two time in terms of minutes and seconds left. Okay, so now we'll start working with the training file. So we'll first seed the environment and create some files. Okay, in the main function, you can see we have seeded the environment and seed number is 42. So I generally use the same number always in any video, any code, or any research paper in my also. I use same number. So just I don't forget any time that which random number I have used for the seeding. Next we would create a directory called files. So within the files we'll save multiple things like checkpoint and any other thing which you want to save, we will save inside the files folder. So next task is to load the dataset. So if you remember in the previously we have performed data augmentation and we have created a directory called new data where we have train and test folder. Now we're going to load images from this new data folder only. Okay, so we're going to say train x. Okay, it should be train x, no train plus x. We're going to say globe, and inside globe we need to provide it path. Path should be new data, then train, then images, and then it's start. So start basically means get all the images path. Okay, next we have is the train y. So train y basically means the mask, and here instead of image we're going to write mask here. So training images and mask we have loaded. Now it's time for the validation. So here the test data would act as the validation data. So we're going to call them valid x and valid y. In term of train we're going to write test here. So we have both the training and the validation data here. Okay, now let's run this code and we're going to check the size of the data. Okay, you can see for training we have 80 images and for validation we have 20. So 80 because we have applied data augmentation, 20 images original and 60 which are augmented. Okay, so now data is loaded. Now it's time for the hyperparameters. Okay, so for hyperparameter we have height, weight, and the batch size, and there are multiple things. So everything is specified here which we require: the height, width, and the batch size, number of epoch, learning rate. So everything is specified here. This is the path for the checkpoint file. So checkpoint file is basically the weight file. It contains the weight of the trained model, because we don't want to train the model every time we require. So we would save all those weight in a file and we would load that file, and then we have our trained model. Next is time for the data set and the loader. Okay, now here we need to write some code within our data.py file. Okay, so now start writing code here. So we'll import some functions here. Okay, I don't think we need globe here. Okay, so we start writing here the drive data set. This is a class drive data set. So this data set, this drive data set class would actually help in building the data pipeline, which would in turn help us to train the model. Okay, so let's start working on this. It takes a base class as the data set. Then we have its initializer, or we can say the constructor. It takes images path, then masks path. Okay, and we have already resized the images while the applying data augmentation, so we won't take the image size here. So next we're going to initialize some variables here, the images path, mask path, and n samples. So how many images is there? Then we would write a function called get item. This this function would take an index variable. Now we need to read the image of this specific index number. So let's go with this. First of all, we're going to read the image. So I have written the complete code here. So first of all, we're going to read the image with this specific index, and we're going to read it as a RGB image. Then we're going to normalize the image by dividing the image pixel with 255. Then we're going to transpose the image. So if you remember, the image is like 512 by 512 by 3. So it's basically a channel last approach here. But if you remember, in PyTorch we have channel first approach, so that's why we are applying a transpose here. So the size would change to 3 by 512 by 512. So this is how it would change to channel first approach. Then we convert it into float 32, and then we finally convert it into a torch tensor. And same thing we're going to do with the mask instead of just transpose convolution. We don't have we don't call it transpose, just the transpose operation. So we are reading the mask here as the grayscale image. Then again we are dividing its pixel by 255. So here its shape would be like 512 by 512. Okay, so it's basically channel last approach is there. So here we expand its dimension the first axis, so its shape changes to 1 by 512 by 512, and that's here it became channel first approach. Then again the same procedure, we convert it to float 32 and then a torch tensor, and then we return the image and the mask. And last we would create another simple function called len, which would return the number of samples. Okay, so this is all about the drive dataset class. So it would help us in building the pipeline for the training. So we're going to import this function here. We're going to call it from data import drive dataset. Okay, so let's do this. Let's first train dataset, drive dataset. It would take train x and then train y. Next is the valid dataset. Again the same class, drive dataset, but this time we're gonna have valid x and valid y. Okay, now it's time for the train loader. The train loader, basically data loader. So first we have the dataset. So for train we have the train dataset. Yeah, then we need to specify batch size. So batch size is already specified here in this hyperparameters. Then we have the variable called shuffle. Yes, set it to true. We want to shuffle the dataset. And next is the number of workers. Set it to 2. Okay, so this is the the train loader, and same we have is the validation loader. Instead of train, we would specify validation data here. Batch size would remain the same. Shuffle, we're going to say false. We don't want to apply any shuffling on the validation part. Okay, we want the validation data to remain the same, but not for the training. Okay, now we would build our model. Okay, so we have this device here. So we have a CUDA device, that is I have a GPU, that is, let me specify, GTX 1060 6 GB. Okay, and it's about to be dead. That's a secret, don't tell anyone. Okay, now we build our model and we load it in our GPU, that is CUDA device. Next we specify the optimizer, and here we would use the Adam optimizer. Next we specify a scheduler, basically the callback which we have in the TensorFlow, that is reduce LR on plateau. Same here, we have a scheduler. Next we have is the loss function. So for loss function we're going to use the BCE plus dice loss. Okay, or we can say the dice plus BCE loss, that's the name of the function. Now we're going to loop over the, now we're going to start training, that is number of epochs, training the model. Now here we would write the code, it's myself. So for epoch in range, number of epoch, so we want this loop to run the number of epoch times. So if we have, like here we have 50 epochs, so we want this loop to run 50 times. Here we will start the time, start time, just to note how much time it would take for one epoch. Then here we would specify a function called train, which would train the model. It would take the model, then train loader, okay, then the optimizer, then a loss function, and then the device, which is basically CUDA. Okay, so let's start with this function. So this function should return the training loss. Okay, so let's start with this function, start building it. Okay, it's basically a simple function, it's not that complicated, so don't worry about it. Okay, now in the beginning we would say epoch loss, because we need, our main aim is to return the epoch loss here with this function, and to return the loss we need to do a lot of operation here. So as we are training the model, we would say model.train. So we would specify that we are training, we are not testing or evaluating the model here. We will say model.train. Now we're going to loop over the loader, x and y in loader. Okay, now x and y are basically tensors, so we're gonna load them into their proper devices, that is CUDA device, because the model is also in the GPU, so the data should also be loaded in the GPU. So we're gonna say x.to device, and data type is equals to torch.float32, and same we're going to do with the y, that is the mask tensor. Instead of x we're going to write y here. Okay, next is optimizer. We're going to say optimizer dot 0 grad. Okay, next we're going to make prediction, ypred equals to model dot, not model dot, model, and we would give it the input x. Okay, now we will calculate the loss. So we're going to say loss equals to loss function. First you take the prediction ypred and then y, the ground truth value. Then we're going to say loss dot backward. So basically performing a back propagation here. Then optimizer dot step. So we're going to optimize this loss function through this Adam optimizer. Next we would add this epoch loss in this epoch loss variable, loss dot item. Okay, spelling mistake. Okay, so now this loop is done. We would now calculate the mean loss. So we're going to say epoch loss equals to epoch loss divided by the length of the loader. Okay, and then we're going to return the epoch loss. Okay, so this simple function is complete. Now let's run it here. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna have the data here. So for now we're gonna say let's take only 20 images for the training, because it would take time and we don't want to waste much time here. Okay, so we are running and we would see how much time it would take. It should not take much time. It should take like 10 to 20 seconds, I think. It's taking time. Let's wait for a few more seconds. Otherwise we'll start writing the next code and then we would see what is happening here. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's write the next part of the code and let's wait for this. So next we need to validate, not the validate, evaluate the model. Okay, so next line would be the same function, but here we aren't training, we are evaluating the model. Okay, so let's write this function. The text editor is little slow because the hardware is used by the GPU, not the GPU, the training. Again we have no response here. Yeah, I think we have a response. I know, because we haven't printed anything yet. Remember, we haven't printed anything, and that's a mistake. So let's finish this validation loss function first, and then we will do it correctly. Okay, so something we can like copy from here, epoch loss. Then here we're going to say model dot eval, because we are evaluating it. Okay, then we're going to say with torch dot no grad, and inside it we're going to have our loop. Okay, then again we're going to copy this x and y from here. Okay, then we're going to predict the model and give it x as the input. Now we're going to have our loss here, loss function, then the prediction and giving it the ground truth. Then again same procedure as above in the training, we're going to copy it directly from there. So we have written this loss function, the validation loss. Okay, so we have both the training loss and the validation loss here. Now let's do this. We're going to say end time is equals to time dot time. Okay, so now we have start time and the end time, and if we move to the utils, remember this epoch time function, we're going to use it here now. So we're going to say epoch time, and we're going to give it start time and end time, and it would return us the epoch mint and the epoch seconds. Okay, and now we're going to print the training loss and the validation loss, the number of epochs and everything that need to be printed on the screen. That's why we are worried why nothing is printed on the screen, and that's our mistake, because we haven't write any print statement. Now I hope that it should print at least something on the screen. Okay, can see we have an actually error here, and that's really good because something is working on the background. Now we have error in the line number 106. Okay, 106. So we have valid loader. Don't be okay. We have the same name. That's a mistake. These mistakes occur when you copy them blindly and you forget. Okay, so let's wait now. We would in a few seconds we would have it. Otherwise we would have an error again. But don't worry, we will definitely solve every error in this video. So you can see for first epoch it takes 13 seconds, and we have training loss and the validation loss. Okay, so this is really good. This means that the training model is training and is doing both the thing, the training and the evaluation on the validation set. You can see second epoch, and in second epoch you can see this improvement, the loss is reduced, both the training and the validation. But here we are not saving the model. Okay, So on what condition we should save the model? So we should do something like what we have in TensorFlow is model checkpoint, where it saves the weight only when the validation loss is reduced. Okay, so we would add that functionality here. Okay, so what we're gonna say, we're gonna have an initial variable called best valid loss, and we're gonna give it a value of infinite value. Okay, so before the end time, we're gonna say here we are saving the model. If valid loss is less than the best valid loss. Okay, so what do we gonna do? We're gonna print a message first that the valid loss is decreased, and we are saving the checkpoint file. Okay, then we're gonna say best valid loss is equal to the valid loss, and we're gonna save this weight file as a specific path. Okay, so now the training file is literally complete. We just need to train it and run it. Okay, let's run it, and then we're gonna see if we have the updated functionality here. Let's wait for a few more seconds, and within 15 seconds we're gonna have our first epoch. Okay, you can see the validation loss improved from infinite to this 1.4846. You can see, and saving checkpoint file at this directory. So we're gonna go in this files directory and see, okay, you can see we have our checkpoint file, and its size is 124.3 MB. So it's basically a 125 MB file, not that large. It's okay. You can see again. Now next you can see validation loss improved from 1.48 to 1.44. So now this is going in right direction. We are training the model and it's going really good. So we don't going to train the model here. I have only trained this model on 50 epochs on complete data, that is 80 images, and I'm going to show what is the result here. Let me just remove these from statements from here. Okay, let me just copy some files from here. So I'm going to copy this files folder, and I'm going to replace it here. Merge, replace. Okay, so I have saved the entire training process in this train.txt file. So it starts with a data set size 80 and validation 20. If you can see epoch 1, epoch 2 and everything I have saved in this file. So it is trained till 50 epochs, and at 50 epoch the training loss is 0.211 and validation loss is 0.382. Okay, and we have our checkpoint file here, this checkpoint.pth. okay, this is a torch checkpoint file. So now this training part of this video is complete. Now we'll start working on the testing part of this video. Now we have our trained model. Now we're going to use our test data to check the performance of our model. We're going to calculate the score for Jaccard, F1, recall, precision and the pixel accuracy. So let's start working on that. So first of all, we're again going to do the same procedure. We're going to seed the environment, create a folder. Okay, so we have again used the same seed number which we are using in the training file. So always use the same seed number. Okay, don't change it. Changing it might cause some issue, so don't try to change it. Now we're going to create a folder called results, where we would save the prediction mask. Okay, so now we're going to load our testing set, basically, which is our validation set also. Next we're going to have some hyperparameters, that is height and width. Okay, and the checkpoint file path. Maybe we don't use those height and width here, but still we're going to have it here. Now we're going to load the checkpoint file. You can see we have our device, that is CUDA device. If CUDA device is not there, the model would be run on CPU only. So I hope training this entire model on the CPU would not even be a problem, because the data set size is not that much. You can even like turn off the data augmentation and train the model on 20 images only and validate on those 20 images, because that's the data set is really small. You can, for further, like to reduce the amount of training, if you don't have resource, you can reduce this, where we have this model.ppy file. you can reduce the number of filters here, like, okay, it's up to you, like for testing, like for, because it's hardware, if your hardware level is not that much, so you can do these steps. Okay, so now let's get back to this testing file. So we have our device here. Next we have our build unit model. We have loaded the model into the CUDA device, that is the GPU. Next here we are loading our checkpoint file, that is weight, into the model. Then we set the model into the evaluation mode. Now we're going to calculate the matrix and the FPS, basically what is the time taken, okay, the mean time taken by one image. So we're going to loop over the x and y, that is test x and test y. So if I copy the code directly, so it is like this. So we're going to have our test x, test y, and which is inside the zip. Then we have our enumerate, and after enumerate we have this TQDM, that is the progress bar. So first of all we have to extract the name, again the same procedure. So let's, okay, it's y is also good, x is also good, same thing. So we have extracted the name here and we have removed the extension also. So let's do this. We want to give it a break here. So let's run this file called test.py. Okay, you can see we have our name of the file, test 01 underscore test underscore 0, and it's run for 20th, it would run for 20 iterations. Okay, next we need to read the images and resize. We don't need to resize them, they're already resized, but still you can resize them if you are not confirmed. But here I am fully confirmed that images are already resized. Then we're going to apply transpose here, the transpose function. Then we're going to normalize the pixel, expand its dimension. So let me give the shape here with proper understanding. So here the image is read as 512 by 512 by 3. Okay, here it is converted to channel first approach. Okay, so here it is 3 by 512 by 512. Then here again, okay, let me just copy this here. Okay, now we add a dimension at the first axis, not the first, the 0th axis, because we give images in the batch only and there's only one image. So we're going to create a batch of one image, then we convert it to float 32, and then we convert this array from torch array to a tensor, to a torch tensor. Okay, and then we place it into our GPU, same device which is in our model. Next we're going to read the mask as grayscale. We turn off the resize function here, and again let me give you a proper explanation. It is read as 512 by 512. Then we expand its dimension on the axis 0, so it's like 1 by 512 by 512. Okay, and again now we normalize its pixels by dividing it by 255. So no effect on the shape. Again we are adding a dimension here because images and masks should be in batches. So again we have added one here. Now we are converting into float 32, then a torch, a tensor, then placing it into the device. Okay, now we're going to make prediction and calculate the time taken. Okay, so with this, with torch.nograd, we specify this line, then we start the timing. Okay, to measure the timing, we also need to measure the timing, how much time it takes for one image to predict one image, then apply sigmoid function, because after applying sigmoid only we get our required mask. Okay, and then we have total time equals to time taken, time.time, then start time, and then we append this time in the time taken folder. Okay, next is, and we have applied the sigmoid. Now we start to calculate the matrix, and for that we need a function. Okay, so now we will write a function here called calculate matrix. It would take the ground truth value and then the predicted value. So let's create a function called calculate matrix. Okay, let's go above and create that function. And if remember, we have already imported the accuracy, F1 and these score. So we're going to use sklearn matrix to calculate these scores, because sklearn is standard library, so we're going to use those. Okay, so inside this this as the calculate matrix function. First of all, we're gonna, because these ground truths and this prediction are in torch form, they are a torch tensor, so we're gonna load them in the CPU and then in the numpy. Then we apply threshold of 0.5, convert them to integer 8, unsigned integer 8. Okay, then we reshape them. Okay, we're gonna flatten them, and same procedure we're gonna do on the prediction. So we're gonna load them from CPU, then numpy, then apply threshold of 0.5, then we convert them to unsigned integer 8, then we flatten them. Okay, now we would calculate the scores here. So we're gonna use sklearn matrix, and we're gonna calculate this scores. Like we're gonna calculate Jacquard, F1, recall, precision, and then pixel accuracy, and we're gonna return these scores. Okay, so we have calculated the score, we have written these matrices. Okay, so now what we're gonna do here, we're gonna have the matrix score. Okay, so we're gonna after having the score, we're gonna add this matrix score to this matrix score. If you remember this matrix score list, so we are adding those scores basically, and then we calculate a mean. Now we would write some line for the prediction y. So because the prediction, the image which we have given is of one batch size, so the mask, the predicted mask would be of this size only, 1 by 1 by 512. So we extract this, it's basically a list, so we extract the first element of this size, then we unsqueeze it, then we squeeze it at x is 0. So let me tell you, let me print it. So the y pred here would be like of 1 by 512 by 512, then squeezing it at x is 0 would turn it into 512 by 512. Okay, then we apply threshold and convert it into numpy array of unsigned integer 8 value. Now we need to save those masks. Okay, now what we do, we have the original image, original mask. Okay, ORI mask, we can say, okay, we need to change, and we can change the name here also, it's not an issue. So this is mask parse function. So if you remember, the shape of this mask is 512 by 512. So we have a function, let me just directly copy paste it because it's not that complicated. So if you remember, the shape of this mask is 512 by 512. So we expanded dimension at the last axis and it became 512 by 512 by 1. Then we concatenate 3 such masks on the top of each other. Okay, we stack them on top of each other, then it would create a mask of size 512 by 512 by 3. Then now you would asking me, why are we adding 3 channels here? Why isn't it the size 512 by 512 is sufficient? Because here what we do, we're gonna concatenate all the 3 things: the original image, the original mask, okay, and then the prediction. Even if we have a line variable which is separating these image, the ground truth, and the prediction. Now we are saving this in the results folder with a specific name which we have extracted at the top. Okay, now at last we're going to calculate the mean. Okay, the mean score. So we have this at index 0 we have Jacquard, and index 1 we have F1. So like this we have recall, precision, accuracy also, and we're gonna divide them with the size of the data set because we have added the scores, and then we're going to display them. And like this we also have the FPS, the time. We're gonna divide the mean time. Okay, this we have time taken, we calculate its mean and divide it by 1 to calculate the FPS, that is number of frames in 1 second. Now I'm gonna run this test file and we're gonna see this progress bar. Okay, so it would not take that much amount of time. So it's like 7 seconds. Okay, it's 8 seconds. You can see the score. The Jacquard is 66, F1 is 79, recall is 77, precision is 82, and pixel accuracy is 96. And we have a FPS of like 361 FPS we have. That's like really high FPS, and score is also good because we have trained the model on 50 POC and we still have some progress left there. If you see this train.txt file, we have trained it on 50 epochs, and here we still can have much more improvement. Like we can still reduce this validation to at least 0.5, okay, or at least to 0.10 we can reduce. We can have much more accuracy. Now let's check the results folder where we have saved the result. So here the first image is the RGB input image, second is the ground truth, and the third is the prediction. So you can see the prediction look nearly resembling the ground truth, but the difference is that these fine vessels are not there. The broad or the thick vessels are predicted easily, but these fine vessels are not predicted easily. So you need to train it much, or you can apply more data augmentation, increase the data size, and then train it again on more data size. You can apply a different architecture. Instead of unit, you can apply REST unit, or you can apply deep lab. I already have made a video on deep lab where we segment human images, so you can watch that video, check it code, and take the deep lab part from there and apply it here. Okay, train that deep lab and again test it with deep lab and compare it with UUnit. So I'm sure that deep lab would have much better performance. Okay, like in future I may have a video with deep lab. So if you want a video with deep lab with this drive dataset, do comment it out. So that's all for this video. So in this video we have covered the data augmentation. Okay, then we have built the unit architecture, then we have trained the model, then we have tested the model and saved the result. Okay, so this is an entire process of the segmentation. So I hope you get at least some new information from this video, and if you get it, then please subscribe the channel, like this video, and share this video with your friends. And if you still have any query, comment below, and for the code please check the description. Thank you. Have a nice day.